This message brought to you by Samsung and this station.
What's it like to walk in the shoes of a Navy SEAL, a beekeeper, a rabbi, a dentist, a ghost hunter, or a professional clown? Join me, Jim Warlick, on Word of Mouth, Thursday mornings from 11 a.m. to noon, and hear their stories. Captivating guests from a wide range of professions sharing a behind-the-curtain view of their jobs. Jobs such as an interrogator from Guantanamo, a private chef, a film director, a doctor, an orchestra conductor, a college basketball.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Reality Radio. I'm your host, David Rich. Got a good show tonight. I have Clyde McLemore, a Lake County resident who is the founder of the Lake County Black Lives Matter chapter, which is awesome. I'm really excited to have him on the show. We're calling him in about 5 minutes here. And then after that, to keep it in one theme of sorts, we have the newly elected Lake County State's Attorney. It's always trickier to say that because it's got county and state in there at the same time. In fact, a friend of mine, Linda, corrected me the other day because I put DA. She's like, it's SA, dude. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Anyway, thank you for the correction, Linda. He'll be on about 6 o'clock till close to 7, and we're going to be discussing the new police reform bill that passed in the General Assembly here last week in Illinois, and a lot of people are very excited about it, and some people are suspicious of it and thinks that it's going to make us less safe. I would just like to go ahead and point out how unsafe we've been with policing being the way it has been for so long. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to talking to both of them. Very, very excited. I'm a huge supporter of Black Lives Matter and have been for a long time, even before the 2020, when I first heard about Black Lives Matter back in the day. I remember, I would think probably 2015, 2016, maybe 2014, I don't know. I thought it was a great idea for a movement. And I loved the name, and I was hoping it would expand. And of course, last year, due to the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, it expanded globally. And just don't forget that, because it's true, folks. The protests went all over the world, literally, when that footage was shown of George Floyd being, choked to death by a white cop in Minneapolis. So, okay, yeah. Prince was a huge supporter of Black Lives Matter, and that was very cool. I don't think a lot of people know that, because he put a lot of political stuff in his music, but he wasn't explicit about it outside of that. So, yeah, anyway. But again, in about a minute here, I'm going to call Mr. McLemore, and we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. I hope everybody had a good week, and I hope you're surviving. Today is the last day of 4 years of utter political and economic nonsense, and we are going to hopefully get into a better gilded age, hopefully. I did not vote for Biden. I would not vote for Biden, but I'd rather have him over Trump any day. What happened, a couple weeks ago with the Capitol. Even McConnell said today, I believe, I heard the speech today, the comment today from McConnell, that Trump's responsible for inciting that riot. So if McConnell's thinking it, he's the one that's in charge of letting the Senate convict Trump. Trump doesn't look like he's in a good spot. So anyway, and again, I'd like to just, that thing that was going around Facebook, I don't have it handy right now, but remember, with a lot of politics can be a very gray area, because you're dealing with morality sometimes, then you're dealing with finances at other times, you're dealing with tradition at other times. There's a whole bunch of so many things involved in politics. I think that one good measure, what that meme was saying on Facebook, is that when you look to your left, when you're at a political rally of your choosing, you're favoring, and you look over around you, you see neo-Nazis and KKK members around there, you're probably on the wrong side. And I think it's very unfortunate that people to this day still support Donald Trump. I'm not saying that he's explicitly or overtly a racist, but I think there's a reason why racist white supremacists like him. I'll say that. So if he isn't personally, certainly his politics is, which again would defer to he being racist. it's just a difference of degree. Again, being explicitly racist, implicitly racist, or whatever. White supremacists love Trump, and you've got to ask yourself why that is the case. All right, that being said, and happy Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, recognized yesterday, everybody, by the way. So let's go ahead and let's call Mr. Clyde McLemore. Very excited about this. Very, very excited. Hi, Clyde McLemore. This is David Rich on Reality Radio. You're live on the air. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, sir. Thank you very much. Hey, thanks for coming on the show. I was really happy to get the contact information about you. I don't know, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think I contacted you. A friend of mine told me about you, and I didn't even know. I've been a long-time supporter of Black Lives Matter, and I didn't know that Lake County had a chapter. She's like, hey, how about Clyde McLemore, the founder of Lake County's chapter of BLM? I'm like, really? We have one? That's awesome. So thank you again for coming on the show. Everybody's busy nowadays trying to keep up with the world, turning into ashes. How are you and your friends and family doing in all this nonsense?
Well, we're doing real great right now.
Good. All right, well, so let's get it underway. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about your efforts before setting up the chapter? Why you set it up, how you set it up, how long it's been around, and what you guys are doing.
Well, we started in 2015 after the murder of Justice Howe, which was a 17-year-old that was killed dying by Officer Eric Hill. This was done with the video showing Justice Howe running, and as he was running, he was shot in the head. I guess the police got scared, got tired of waiting on him.
Okay, so it was after that shooting that you started the chapter. Okay, well that's
We started a chapter for Black Lives Matter, and we started it. It was out my kitchen table, out my garage.
okay. Well,
So it basically was. We started out as a group that was upset with the finding after they justified the shooting of Justice Howe. And that's what started it. And then after the shooting was justified, we had a big protest here in Waukegan, Illinois. Make it 5/15/15 and shut down the courthouse and everything like that. From that, we went on to doing a lot of things in the community, attending county board meetings, county school board meetings, finding out why we're not at the table. One of the things that we started doing was the water in Flint, Michigan. We took two truckloads of water to Flint, Michigan. We had everybody donate water. We got 2 semis. We took it to Flint, Michigan.
oh wow.
And then we went door to door in Flint, Michigan, and gave out water and stuff. Basically, we try to find people in the community that needs our help. We are helping single mothers with children, the house catch on fire or something like that. Red Cross don't always come through for them. We put them in hotels. Homeless people we have helped. Just this year alone, we found we got a grant. We brick and mortar now. We got brick and mortar just 6 months ago. We're right across the street from the county building. And now we've outgrew this office and we're moving next door to a bigger office. So we've been doing a lot in the community just this year alone during the COVID. When COVID hit, when the pandemic hit, I invested some money with a company, a pharmaceutical company, and got $10,000 worth of PPE. And we was able to give them out to the frontline workers and stuff when nobody else had PPE.
Oh wow.
Hand sanitizers, masks, and stuff like that. So we've been doing that. We basically went off with donations only. We have not received any grants. However, we did get a food grant in the later part of the pandemic, so we was able to feed over 5,000 families
Oh, good for
here
you.
in Lake County with good food, milk, eggs, butter, stuff like that, real stuff. So we're basically here in the community. It's not all about, a lot of people hear Black Lives Matter, and they think that we're just doing out to get the police. We're not out for the police. We're trying to do to get equal rights for everybody.
Right.
So that's basically what we're doing.
All right. Well, that's encouraging to hear. I didn't realize that you guys were as much of a communal outreach post as you just described. So that's great. Yeah. No, that's being an active member of the Green Party. One of the things that we're trying to do in the countywide is set up charitable events and that kind of thing, and really have the party reach out to the community to whoever needs our help. Because we're not just a political party, we're people who are, the whole idea of a political party is to help other people with their problems and that kind of thing, and to solve problems for society. So that's encouraging to hear. Have you gotten any push? So you said, okay, when some people think when they hear about Black Lives Matter that it merely has to do with a reaction against police brutality, and certainly that's the most of how it started for sure. But you're saying it's expanded into a bigger community outreach type movement, which is great to hear. Are you getting any pushback on the streets, or anybody shutting the door in your face saying, I don't support you? Because some people want to think of Black Lives Matter as also like this anarchist, violent, riotous sort of movement. I mean, you see people on videos of really obnoxious people freaking out when they see somebody wearing a Black Lives Matter mask or something like that. I have one. I walk around Jewel and Mundelein all the time. I'm just waiting for somebody to give me crap about it. So do you get any pushback?
We get the pushback, the regulars. I don't know if you remember, but when Trump came to Kenosha, I was out there with a Black Lives Matter shirt, mask, and everything. And one man told me if I didn't like it, go back to Africa.
Oh, my God.
And so I was like, I didn't come from Africa. I was born right here. And the crowd really got into him. And 24 hours later, we was pulling up in front of the office, and this guy was standing out there, and one of my board members asked, could they help him? He said, yeah, I'm looking for Clyde McElroy. And he said, so they called me on the phone, and I was headed into the office anyway. And as I was headed here, it was the man that told me to go back to Africa, and he apologized and everything.
Oh, wow.
So we get that, we get the pushback and stuff like that. People don't understand. One thing about Lake County, there is no outreach for Black and brown people.
Right.
So we help people. I've also run a transitional program out of this office where I help people that are getting out of jail get jobs. Last year we had 150 clients, and 60 of them are working, and only one returned back to jail. That's less than 1%. So our program really does work, the transitional program that we got set up. Where I was working with the Lake County Jail, when they would let me go in and interview the people before they get out. We found out if they need mental help. We had 2 that needed mental help, so we got them at mental health service. We also had some that didn't want to return back to the community that they was going in, so we sent them to a transitional housing. We helped them get in housing. We even paid one rent so we could get in recovery home because he was using drugs. So these are the things that we're trying to do. We're trying to uplift the community, not tear it down. As you know, just last month, we had a shooting here at Marcella Tenet, and we had a protest, and we demanded that the police officer be fired. He was fired in 2 days, and we did not tear up nothing.
Right.
We demanded peace. We believe in no justice, no peace. But
right.
We believe in non-violence. We're gonna break the peace. We're gonna shut down the streets, and we're gonna do that. But we believe in non-violence. Also was on the lead of the Jacob Blake case. And, when we got through marching, then the other groups came in, and that's where all the destruction came in. And, of course, they blamed it on Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But we wasn't even out there.
Right. Yeah, no, everybody wants a scapegoat, and once you get targeted or thought of in a certain way through the media, through whatever, whoever, it's really hard to shake that reputation, even though it never really applied to you in the first place. It's very difficult nowadays. It's encouraging to hear that. Yeah, no justice, no peace is a very important phrase that people need to pay more attention to. But it doesn't mean that you're going to start taking up rocks and breaking windows and stuff like that. It just means you're going to disrupt the average day-to-day flow of things in order to get your message across. That's encouraging to hear. I do a podcast every week. We just did one last week on violence versus nonviolence in social change and that kind of thing. So, like Martin Luther King Jr., you guys are wholly dedicated to nonviolence. I mean, period.
We definitely are, but nonviolent. We believe we can make enough noise being a bully to get our point across. Right now, I'm also the author, and I wrote the bill, ban the box. It took me 10 years, but that was the last bill that Governor Queen had signed. I even went to Springfield and lobbied that bill for 10 years straight on my own money.
Oh, really?
And that was one. So we can get things done. We don't have to tear up our homes. We don't have much in our communities. So we need resources, and that's what we need. And what I'm trying to do is build a resource center here for people, black and brown people can come and get and look for these resources, have these resources. I reach out to other organizations, any organization that wants to partner with us. I'm willing to partner with them. White or black, I don't care. If you got some helpers that can help to build our community, then let's do it.
Well, that's good to hear too, because I think you and I need to sit down and talk more, because I am definitely interested in helping you out through the radio station, through my radio show, and aligning with the local Green Party chapter as well, because we're always looking to help other local organizations. So can you take us through like a day, like, so you said you're brick and mortar now, so you have a spot. What town is that in again? I'm sorry.
We're in Waukegan. We're right across the street from the county.
Oh, okay.
Right across the street.
Okay, cool. So somebody wanted to come in and like just like a Monday through Friday 9 through 5 kind of thing. Is it open? Is there somebody at a desk waiting to greet people, or is it appointment only? Like if I wanted to come in and chat with someone, go ahead.
We're moving to 218 North West Madison Street, which is right on the corner. Mm-hmm. And right now we don't have nobody there, but we always. I'm in the office at least 8 hours a day.
Okay.
I'm usually there trying to fix things up, get things together. Because we just moved into, we had one office, and we outgrew it in 6 months.
Oh, wow, good for you.
Our conference room is our supply room now. We get a lot of donations in as far as PPE and stuff like that. We have food that we give away and stuff like that. So our conference room is our supply room, in which we need bigger space because we don't even have room for our conference.
Okay, interesting. All right, so could you speak more on like when you set up the chapter in Lake County, was there a legal process you had to go through to like set it up as a non-for-profit, or is it something you just go ahead?
We are non-for-profit. We're 501c3.
Okay.
We had to go through that process. Now we are GAP, which is state approved. We are independent. A lot of people will look up Black Lives Matter on the national level. We're independent. We receive none of that money or nothing like that. Matter of fact, Alicia Garza and Patrice Colliers, both the original founders of Black Lives Matter, have gave me their blessings to do this. I met with the sisters and they gave me the blessings. But they have their own way of doing things, and all the money that you hear that's donated to Black Lives Matter never reach to these smaller communities. Now I am the executive director over 11 different chapters. I go all the way out because I have the blueprint on how to have a successful chapter. Because after George Floyd was killed, chapters started opening up everywhere. Everybody started, well, we got a Black Lives Matter. Nobody owns the name of Black Lives Matter. So anybody can open up a chapter of Black Lives Matter. We do own the name of Black Lives Matter, Lake County.
Okay.
We do own that name, but anybody can open that up because nobody ever owns the name. So a lot of chapters around the country have been opening up. Well, a lot of these different chapters have been contacting me and asking, what do we need to do to keep it going? And I've been going out and, explaining to them how we do it, how you set up your 501c3, what do you need to do, how many years you got to keep going. Like I said, we're coming into our 6th year.
Right.
And a lot of times, sometimes it don't be nobody for me.
Right.
But you got if you remember, I did a protest when we protested against Starbucks. It was a cold day. Nobody wanted to come out. It was like below zero weather. Nobody wanted to come out, and it was calling that we protest Starbucks. So I went out by myself and protest.
Well, good for you. You have a lot of ambition there. Yeah, it's a protest of one person is still a protest, right? And so I'm assuming you're referring to what it was a couple of years ago. I don't remember where it was, but 2 black men were kicked out of Starbucks, probably just for being black because they weren't ordering. They were waiting for a friend or something like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
when that happened,
Yeah.
and now we work with the court system where when people they get out of jail, they sentence, and they got to do community service, they can come work for us, and we can give them hours.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, we can give them hours. They come over and work, over in distribution work or something like that. We can give them hours.
That's really
They can't
interesting.
get hours to protesting now. They can't get.
Probably no. I can't imagine that would. Here, hold this sign.
They get hours for going to protest. No, they don't get hours for that. They get hours for cleaning and stuff like that, helping us in the office.
That's interesting. Have you had a lot of that happen, or just a little bit?
Yes, when we do our turkey giveaways and stuff, every Thanksgiving I've been giving away turkeys for almost 10 years.
Oh wow.
So every Thanksgiving we get community service come out. We do a banquet. Our biggest fundraiser is a banquet we do every year, but we didn't do it this year due to COVID. And
Right.
We give community awards out there, and we have people, mothers and wives of fathers who have their children killed by the police come out and tell their stories.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah.
So we fly them in, and they come in and they tell their stories. They come here. We've had some. Monteria Robinson here. Her son was shot 76 times in East Point, Georgia.
76 times.
Yeah, on the wrongful warrant.
Holy sh.
Yeah, that's what I said. She contacted me all the way from East Point, Georgia, because she had nobody, and they told her about me. She Googled my name and read about me and contacted me, and me and her very good friends. I've worked with people like Sandra Bland's mom. I've worked with Jessica Dow's mom. I've worked with Fernando Castillo's mom. I've worked with Cordell Handy's mom. I've worked with Marcella Sinette's mom. I helped with the Black Lives Matter up in Minnesota, which is before George Floyd. I worked with the Black Lives Matter, which is a new chapter up in Joliet, Illinois. Also, Mundelein got a new chapter.
Does it really? I grew up in Mundelein. No kidding.
Yeah, Mundelein has a new chapter. I came out and spoke at one of the events.
Interesting. You're gonna have to. I'll ask you after the show. I'll text you tomorrow or something and give me some names of people I can contact through that chapter. I work in Mundelein. I grew up in Mundelein. I love Mundelein. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, I met the chief of police there. Me and him marched together. We protested together.
Is that right? What's his name? Guthrie, Gunther, or something like that?
something like that.
Yeah.
I met him, and he walked away from me.
Well, good for him. That's great. That's good. I'm glad to know my hometown is supporting this. That makes me happy. So you mentioned the ladies that or the national aspect of Black Lives Matter, that kind of thing, and so that fell under some controversy. Excuse me, earlier last year, or some point last year, because calling the movement Marxist and that kind of thing. And if you ever want to really put off most Americans, call whatever it is, Marxist or socialist, and they're going to hate it, even without looking into it. So as a chapter yourself, how did you guys respond to that sort of like public reputation of being Marxist or whatever else? Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Do you go ahead?
I know when people get money, they accept money. Now, I know that in the beginning, the guy gave $10 million. I forgot his name.
Soros, yes.
Yeah, he gave $10 million to Black Lives Matter.
Right.
The chapters never did receive that money.
Oh, wow.
The chapters never did receive any of that money. So the big chapters like Chicago, which is under the University of Chicago, which I used to be, before I opened up this chapter, I used to be a part of that chapter. They got some of the money. You know, different chapters like that did under the University of Chicago. My biggest thing is when people bring that to me, I let them know we are independent. We're not part of that. I don't believe in separation because I'm a part of Black Lives Matter, but we're not a part of the money they're going in. And at last I heard that the founders was under some scrutiny about messing up the money because they didn't do the taxes. I have a treasurer on our board who takes care of every dollar that comes in. So our books is open to the public. They can come and look. Everything. Just last year, we was able to raise $48,000 just on donations only.
Oh, just your chapter did?
Huh?
Just your chapter raised $48,000?
Yeah, we raised $48,000 just last year.
Oh, wow.
And all that money went back into the community.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, that's.
And I don't get paid for this or nothing.
Oh, okay, you did. Okay.
We also doing COVID testing now.
You're a COVID testing center?
Yeah, we have a doctor out of Chicago that has COVID testing, and he works with us, and if we get him sites, he comes out and stand up and do COVID testing free of charge. Don't cost us anything, don't cost them anything. All they need is an ID and a phone number. You get your results back in 48 hours. We've been doing it all over Lake County. Wherever we can find a place to go.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Yeah. Do you guys have a website where you post these sorts of things?
We do have a website. It's not updated because, like I said, we're moving. Mostly you can catch us on Facebook, social media, Facebook, which is Black Lives Matter Founders page.
Okay.
And we also have we do have a Black Lives Matter Lake County page, which is not updated. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for someone to keep our website together, and we don't have nobody that would help us like that yet. But we do have a website. We have a PayPal and all. And we have This is how a lot of our information get out through Facebook, social media.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great way to get it out. So that's for sure. Probably even better than having a website, to be honest with you. So, okay, real quick, everybody, it's the bottom of the hour. You're listening to WRLR 98.3 FM, the voice of Lake County. I'm your host to Reality Radio. I'm David Rich, having a great conversation with Clyde McLemore, the founder of the Lake County chapter of Black Lives Matter, learning a lot about the chapter. So, as far as things go, like locally compared to nationally, what is your? Do you talk to other chapters about setting up street protests and that kind of thing? Go ahead.
We have the blueprint on on how chocolate can survive.
Mhm.
And we find when a person decides that this is what they want to do, I will go out and bring them the paperwork on the blueprint and explain to them what they need to do and how they need to do it. One of the things is it's not so much as police brutality. A lot of people wait for it to happen at their front door, and then they want to come aboard.
Right.
We take them, we help them as much as we can, but we try to get people involved before it happens to their front door.
Yeah, that would be preferable to prevent it than wait till after the fact. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and one of the earlier questions you asked me, did I have any pushback?
Yeah.
The first couple of years I started Black Lives Matter, I was getting pulled over so much by the police. It was a shame.
Wow. What really? Because okay.
But as we grew, now I have every police chief's phone number. I can contact them. I got most of the mayor's phone numbers in the surrounding area, and I don't have any problem. All the police know me personally.
Well, that's good, and so you're not getting harassed anymore, which is
I'm not getting harassed anymore. Like I try to, try to build relationships to let them know that we're not the enemy.
Right.
We're not the enemy. We just want to live in peace.
Right.
And one of the other things you might want to know, since you asked me, do I have any pushback?
Yeah.
I moved in my own house in Zion, and just last week somebody decided, because I have a Black Lives Matter flag outside of my flagpole, and somebody decided to come out and shoot in front of the house.
Do what?
Yeah, somebody came and drove in front of the house last Sunday and just started shooting.
A gun?
They didn't shoot in the house. They just shot in the air.
Still.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Because you have a Black Lives Matter.
I guess that was to scare me and something.
Well, yeah, clearly, and that's terrible. Even if they didn't shoot it at you, and I'm glad they didn't. Don't get me wrong, but those bullets have to come down somewhere, guys. That could still hurt somebody.
Well, when the police came, they found 5 shells right in front of my house.
Holy cow, dude, that's crazy. That's one of the things. That's one of the disconnections I think that happens between your average white person in America and your average African American in America. Is that lack of experience that, like, I've never ever been threatened because of my race, ever, not one time. I've been picked on for other things. I was always a little chubby growing up and that kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not totally innocent of being, discriminated against in any way, but I've never been not given a job because of my race. I've never been called anything because of my race. I've never, been, threatened because of my race ever. I mean, it's never happened. So it's impossible for me to really 100% empathize with what that's like to be threatened. But somebody standing on my side of my house and shooting a gun 5 times to threaten me because I support a minority cause. So personally, Clyde, growing up, did you grow up in this area or did you grow up somewhere else?
No, I grew up in the south side of Chicago.
Okay, okay. Did you get it?
South side of Chicago. I came here and got married and got the American dream, the house and the dome and another child that I wasn't expecting.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations. I saw the New Year's Eve video footage of you with your seafood smorgasbord there. It looked beautiful. Looks like you were surrounded by a lot of good, loving people. With the family. Yeah, you had the crab legs and all the shrimp and everything. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Anyway, so did you grow up? The south side of Chicago. I'm very much the northern suburbs. I could probably throw a rock and hit Wisconsin. I'm so close. So I never really got down to that side of the city very often at all. Maybe to go to Midway or maybe I don't even think I've been to a Sox game, to be honest with you. Did you have a lot of problems with racism and racial stuff growing up?
Well, actually, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. You know, what really got me involved with racism, growing up on the south side of Chicago, that's all I knew. So
Right.
I never was around other races. And so what really got me involved was in fourth grade, Dr. Martin Luther King got assassinated. And my mother worked, my father worked, and there was a lady next to him, her name was Bert. And Bert was from Mississippi. And Bert was, she was like my babysitter. And, you know, I come home and I watch TV and I do my homework. And I always watched the Mickey Mouse Club. I don't know if you're young enough to remember it.
I remember the Mickey Mouse Club, sure.
And that was my favorite show, right? And the day Dr. King got assassinated, they cut the Mickey Mouse Club off and brought a special, you know, breaking news. Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. So I was in the fourth grade, and I went over to Bert, and I said, Bert, she was making a cake. Back then, you know, we didn't have blenders and stuff. She had a big mixing bowl in her arm, and she was cooking a cake. And I said, Bert, I said, some man named Dr. Martin Luther King just got killed, and they cut Mickey Mouse off.
How dare they?
And she didn't say nothing. She just started. Tears was rolling out her eyes.
Oh, jeez.
And this lady was like, you know, when my mom whooped me and stuff, she was like, leave my baby alone and everything. She was like, you know, you had that adult like that. And you
Sure,
go out.
sure.
And when she started crying, she didn't say one word. She just started tears coming out her eyes. And then we had the riots in Chicago behind the killing and stuff. But anyway, when we went back to school, I made it my prerogative to find out who this man, Dr. Martin Luther King, was. And that's where my quest for justice and everything, when I started doing my research, I did that later on in life when I was about 16, I went to Memphis for the first time. I went to Lorraine Hotel. At that time, I stayed at the hotel. At 16 years old, I stayed right up under the room that Dr. King had when he got assassinated. And when I got about 24, 25, I finally made it to Atlanta, Georgia. And I went to the gravesite of Dr. King, which was right there by the church, where they got where his tomb is and everything. And they got a justice center right there. And it was open. And it was late at night. And it was open. And I walked in. And I went and saw all the artifacts of Dr. King and stuff like that. And this lady walked up to me. And I had been drinking that day. I was still in my madness and stuff. And she walked up to me. And you know who it was?
No, who?
It was Loretta Scott King.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and that just, you know, and she knew I had been drinking. She smelled the alcohol. And she was like, what are you doing? And she knew I was young, and she was trying to talk to me, and I was trying to get away from her because I knew the alcohol was weak.
Right.
So that kind of led me into it, but it didn't stop. It didn't start right there. What really happened is I got in some trouble. I went to the penitentiary.
Okay.
While I was in the penitentiary, I read Marcus Garvey's book. And Marcus Garvey had the Black Star Enterprise. And he always said for black people to go back to Africa. But every time he got these ships and people were buying tickets to go back to Africa, it was always sabotaged by the government. So Marcus Garvey made a die that never got to Africa. So when I got myself together and I had left the state before I got married, I took down my 401k and I went to Africa for 3 weeks. And when I got off the plane in a car, Africa, I kissed the ground and I was there for Marcus Garvey.
Wow.
So that was my experience until where I am today.
Well, okay, all right. That's extremely interesting to meet Loretta Scott King. That's a huge thing. She's iconic. Marcus Garvey. I think I know who you're talking about, but his plan was to actually just segregate the nation and have all the black people go back to Africa, right?
Right, right. Marcus Garvey, he started the Black Star Enterprise.
Okay, yeah.
He bought ships and everything. This was back in the right before they did the 1913, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, obviously that isn't, okay. I mean, do you there are some people out there, I don't want to say that they are or are not part of the Black Lives Matter movement, they may or may not be personally, that think that isolation, separation, and segregation is actually the answer. And I actually find integration to be the ultimate goal. I mean, for everybody to integrate into society and get along and get past this racial barrier, because it's utterly ridiculous and destructive. Do you agree or not agree with that?
Well, I'll tell you, I believe in integration.
Okay, good.
Because people are not capable enough to segregate. But we do need our own in order for us to have our own justice. If we police and school our own, our education system right now is at its worst. If you go into the black community and brown communities in any city,
Oh, yeah.
in any city, the education is at its worst.
That's absolutely correct.
I'm also running for the school board in Zion.
Right.
I was reading a 7th grade book, and in the 7th grade book, it talked, and I wanted to see what kind of history it had. It was a history book of black people, and it said that black people integrated here. We didn't immigrate here; we was brought here.
Right. Those are two very different things. You are correct.
So these are the things that I want that book out in the school system. Because these are what they're teaching the children. These are what they're teaching the children. So this is why our children are messed up. One of the things I don't believe in, and that the press kind of very hard on, is this thing they call it black on black crime. I call it community crime.
Okay.
Because if we had resources, we had mental health services, we had education, it wouldn't be so much us killing each other. And these are the things that our organization is reaching for, to get resources, education, things so they can have knowledge of self. If they had jobs, they wouldn't be standing on the corner shooting up nowhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
But one thing you can't stop, one thing you cannot stop, and that's domestic.
Domestic violence?
Every race kills their own race. More whites kill whites than blacks kill blacks.
Oh, no, there's no doubt.
We're the ones that's on the news.
Yeah, the numbers absolutely bear that out, and you just need to look at the statistics about it. That's 100% correct. White people kill a lot more people across the globe than black people ever could. So that's absolutely correct. Do you get any support or at least a pat on the back from any local politicians?
Well, yeah, it's like this here. Most of the politicians, when they see me coming to their board meetings or anything like that, they want to know if I'm upset first. They want to know, but I know all the politicians. I kind of make it my business that because we do political dialogue so the community can meet the politicians. Because we want the politics. We did a great thing when all the chapters of Black Lives Matter did to get out the vote this last election. I was so proud. The end of election night, I cried. I didn't cry so much because Joe Biden won or Kamala was the first woman to be vice president. I cried because of the camaraderie that we did all across country when we did these seminars and Zoom meetings, and we all got together and we put buses together and we got out on election day and we got cars and we got get to the polls. a lot of people got to vote. And this was done all over the country.
Yes, it was, and there's especially the lady. Oh my God, the lady in Georgia, Stacey.
Yeah, she was on our web, and even the Georgia thing. I didn't go down there, but a lot of different chapters did. There's the Black Lives Matter Women of Faith chapter.
Oh yeah.
They went down there. They was trying to get me to go with them, but I was headed to Jacksonville, Florida, and work with that chapter. But they was Georgia, and they was knocking on doors, and they in the last election in the runoff.
Right.
So they so it's been a busy year for us, even though we had COVID, and a lot of people thought that we was just gonna sit back. We did.
That's great. Yeah, no, it was a busy year for. I mean, just because of what happened with COVID and with all the riots and stuff, or the protests, I should say. And one of as terrible as it was, what happened to George Floyd. I mean, the movement that it sparked literally went global. I mean, there were people all over the earth protesting American police brutality, supporting you, carrying BLM posters and banners and stuff like that. Justice for George Floyd, eventually justice for Breonna Taylor, stuff like that. I mean, we're talking like in Asia and Europe and Africa, and I mean, just everywhere. It would just happen everywhere. It was such a pivotal moment in American and global history. That one white cop, and I don't even know where he. I mean, I haven't heard anything from him. He's in jail somewhere in Minnesota, I'm assuming still.
He's out.
He's out? He what?
He's out. He's out on bail.
Oh, on bail. Okay. Well. All right. So I'm assuming you heard about the Illinois passed the police reform bill recently.
Yeah, I worked real hard on that.
Good for you. Okay, good. Because I'm going to have Eric Reinhardt on right after you here at 6:00. He's the new Lake County state's attorney. He's going to break it all down for us. And from what I read online, just a little bit about it, it looked very encouraging. That holding cops accountable for their actions is extremely important. The whole notion of qualified immunity it never should have been in place in the first of all. A lot of people.
Qualified immunity was taken out of that bill.
What?
Qualified immunity was taken out of the bill. It didn't pass.
That's not okay. I thought it was still in the bill. I didn't know that.
No, qualified immunity. What they did do is that in order to get the bill with no knock warrants, all that, every police officer in Illinois will have to have body cams.
Right.
But the qualified immunity, which I've been pushing for, did not pass, but they did, however, set up a committee. They're going to bring that back. But what's sitting on now, the thing of it is right now, is the governor going to sign this bill? There's no bill. A lot of people are sitting in jail. Just through COVID, I was able to get 300 inmates out of jail due to COVID.
Oh wow, good for you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I had to fight them. I had to actually get it right there, get at the head judge that we need to do this. I'm so glad. I want to see what Eric does. I want to see what Kamala Harris does. I want to see what Joe Biden does. Matter of fact, I am personally writing Joe Biden a letter and asking him to meet with us.
Oh, wow, great. Well, I hope he does. Good luck with that. I'm sure that if he could, he would. I mean, I know he's a big supporter.
Well, I've met Joe a couple of times when he was vice president.
Oh, really?
So he kind of know what we're doing here.
Right. Have you had any outreach from Barack Obama or anybody from his administration at all? Even an email or anything?
Well, not lately. I've met with Michelle Obama. I've met with
wow.
Barack.
Well, that's great.
I met with Barack, matter of fact, a couple of times when he was U.S. Senator and when he was president.
Oh, right on. Do you know former Senator Burris that took his seat?
Former Senator who?
Burgess, I think his name is, the one that took over
No,
Obama.
I never met him.
Okay, so well, the reason I asked you that is because I know that he's big into reparations, and on the video podcast series that I do every week, we've talked quite a bit about reparations, and I've talked about it on the show. A lot of people are for it, a lot of people are against it. I heard a guy at a bar not too long ago say, all that BLM wants is free stuff like reparations and blah blah blah, and that's all it's for, and which is ridiculous. What do you,
I disagree with that because if you look at it, every other race have had reparations.
right?
Every race, even the Jews, and what happened to the Jews didn't happen to them over here, but they got reparations. Black people have never had reparations, and it's not nothing free. We're not looking for no. I don't think reparations would ever come in money.
Well, that's part of the debate is like, even let's say the federal government passes, the Congress says yes, we're going to go ahead and do allocate our reparations for slavery, ADOS, all descendants of slaves. How we go about it is a separate issue entirely. That they're going to do it and how they do it are not the same issue. You're exactly right. It may be money, it may be free education, it could be a plot of land so you can start out over again, easy business licensing, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different options.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that bill was put in years ago.
Reparations bill in Illinois?
Yeah, it was put in not for Illinois. The one for Illinois passed. You know that, right?
No, I didn't. Okay, tell me more.
House Bill 2054 did pass.
That's
And
to. Go ahead.
that was the one that we went down there right before the COVID hit and put it in.
So that just passed this last time in the General Assembly, along with the police reform.
It just passed.
Oh well, that's great. Okay, no, that's good. You're exactly right. Okay, so Native Americans got reparations galore, including land. Even Ronald Reagan, who was not even close to my favorite president, gave reparations to survivors of the Japanese families that were put in internment camps during World War II. America itself demanded that Germany pay reparations to the nation of Israel, not just Jewish people, but the nation of Israel concerning the Holocaust. But to this day, not a nickel has been offered to anybody concerning slavery. And slavery has not is there a moral obligation to do it, but there's an economic one too. You're talking about stealing people's wages for their labor, which this country is built on labor. A lot of the country's fundamental structure exists because of slave labor, literally. There are companies that are still around today that benefited from slavery. Chase Bank is one of them. So I fully am on board with reparations. I hope it happens. I didn't know about the Illinois thing. I'm learning a lot from you tonight, Clyde, so I'm glad you came on the show. I'm going to be looking up a lot of things when I get off the show tonight to follow up on. I also didn't know about the qualified immunity thing. Didn't I read something about, like, in the police reform bill where they're like, you can't do anymore, the unions can't defend cops anymore when it's coming to discipline?
Well, that came into, I didn't see that part, but I think that will be followed with the qualified immunity.
Oh, well, they better not take care. That upsets me. I was excited when I first read it. It said qualified immunity. Maybe I read an older post or something like that. Qualified immunity has got to go. That's what's causing That's what's causing all the problems. Is that these guys are legally protected to do whatever they want, and that's not okay. Anyway.
Well, that's what happened in the Jacob Blake case.
I know. I just shot him 7 times. Gee, God, Lord, it's unbelievable. Anyway, okay. Sir, I only have a couple more minutes left with you. So, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I learned a lot from talking to you. And I'd like to have you on more. And I want to reach out to you outside of the show as well, because it sounds like you and I can do a lot of good things together. How about you just sum it up? What are your hopes? What are your ambitions about Black Lives Matter and the future of the American society?
Well, we're trying to do more into the community as far as we're going to start a podcast show. We want to inform the community and things like that. I'm open to any idea. Let me give you my phone number and do it on the air. If anybody listening want to contact us, my phone number is 847-344-2540. We also have an office number, which I don't even have it right now because I'm on the phone. I have to look through my phone. But that's 847-344-2540. I'm open to any ideas, anybody that would like to help us move ahead or got some ideas that would help us move ahead. As far as expanding, like I said, our office has just expanded. We got more space now. We can do classrooms. If our children don't get back into school, we got study halls that they can use.
Oh.
So we're doing a lot in the community.
That's great. It's all very encouraging and very inspirational. Clyde McLemore, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. The founder of the Lake County chapter of the Black Lives Matter here in Illinois, doing a lot of good for a lot of people. Thank you for everything you've done, for all your efforts. Keep it up. And again, I will be in touch with you soon outside of the show because I think you and I should connect, and I think we can do a lot of great things together. Take care of yourself, your family, your friends. Keep it up. Keep up the good fight. And, sir, I will be in touch.
All right, thank you. And thank you again for inviting me.
Absolutely. Take care. All right, Clyde McLemore, everybody. We'll be right back to Reality Radio.
WRLR 98.3 FM.
I can take care of myself. I can make a peanut butter sandwich. I can brush my teeth and I can give myself a bath. I can walk home alone from school. I can pick dinner from the trash behind the deli. I can watch the baby for the whole weekend. I can keep a baseball bat by my bed just in case there's trouble. Don't worry about me. I can take care of myself.
If you're in jail, who'll be there to take care of your family? Something to think about before committing a gun crime. Gun crimes hit home. This message brought to you by Project Safe Neighborhoods and the Ad Council.
Brighten up your lunch hour with Yesterday Once More with Stan Koenig. Stan plays all your classic favorites from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Simpler times when music was music. These are the songs you fell in love to, the music that inspired you, and most importantly, the songs that make you smile. So turn back the clock by tuning in to Yesterday Once More every Friday from 9 a.m. till noon, right here on 98.3 FM WRLR.
An oasis of calm, a fortress of solitude, in the middle of a crazy world. The Mellow Show.
If there's a little too much reality going down in your life at the moment, and it can be at times, then this is your personal invitation to escape. Just pull down the shutters on reality and step through a portal into a fortress of solitude and oasis of calm. The Mellow Show here on WRLR 98.3, Wednesday evenings at 10.
Tune out of reality. Dial up serenity. The Mellow Show.
A couple of hours of music from the quieter, lighter end of the musical spectrum across time and genres.
The Mellow Show with Gary Z.
I'm Jace, and I'm DJ Selkit, and we host a show called The Fifth Season where we play electronic music. Tune in online at WRLR.FM or at 98.3 FM every Saturday from 4 to 5 Central Time. For the first half hour, Jace will play random electronic music, and DJ Selkit will finish the second half hour with an electronic DJ mix. Catch you there.
Listen to the Northern Lights Mix with host and resident DJ Monty G. Aired on WRLR 98.3 on Thursday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Listen and play safe with us. The Northern Lights Mix. Get your party on while practicing social distancing. Play it at home. Play it in the car. Play it online. Just remember to play it safe.
R&M Auto Body in Round Lake Park reminds listeners, military involvement should be the last resort of any nation. We are fortunate that, when necessary, we have one of the strongest military forces in existence. The individuals who make up our military deserve our respect and support. and we salute them. This message from R&M Auto Body in Round Lake Park. They can be reached at 847-546-4416. We live in the land of the free, thanks to the brave. God bless America.
Kids want to share what's going on in their lives with the adults around them. Parents, grandparents, teachers, coaches, and more. They want to know you're listening, and they want to listen to you. They want your input and guidance, early and often, on all kinds of topics. When it comes to a serious subject like underage drinking, they want to know your expectations, as well as how and why as a young person you handle alcohol. How you talk about it will change as your child grows, but the important thing is to talk about it, not just once for another if the time is right, but in 60 one-minute conversations and more that are part of your everyday talks. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs,
If you guys want to type in any questions or comments while I'm interviewing people, please do.
Hi, I'm Carson Beck. Do you like your weekly dose of Lake County sports? I have a show for you. Tune in to Lake County Sports Scoop right here on 98.3 WRLR on Mondays from 4 to 5 p.m., where me and my co-host, Carl Corsair's assistant boys basketball coach, Fidel Garcia, recap and preview all things Lake County sports.
Brighten up your lunch hour with Yesterday Once More with Stan Koenig. Stan plays all your classic favorites from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Simpler times when music was music. These are the songs you fell in love to, the music that inspired you, and most importantly, the songs that make you smile. So turn back the clock by tuning in to Yesterday Once More every Friday from 9 a.m. till noon, right here on 98.3 FM WRLR.
WRLR.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Reality Radio. I'm your host, David Rich. That was a great conversation I just had with the Clyde McLemore, the Lake County BLM chapter's founder. Very exciting, very, very cool, and a lot of cool things. So now let's continue on with the theme of policing and overreach and so on and so on. And let's call Mr. Reinhardt, our newly elected Lake County State's Attorney.
This is Eric.
Eric Reinhardt, this is David Rich on Reality Radio. You're live on the air. How are you?
Good, David. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, sir. So we just had an hour-long conversation with Clyde McLemore, the founder of the Lake County chapter for BLM, which was great and very insightful. Learned a lot from him. So keeping on with the theme of like policing and that kind of thing, I thought it'd be a good idea to have you on since you're the newly elected Lake County State's Attorney. Again, hard to say because there's county and state in there. But congratulations on your win, by the way. And
thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the newly passed police reform bill by the General Assembly of Illinois last week or the week before. Go ahead and start us off with. First, you know what? Actually, let's get some small talk out of the way. How's the first month of your office been?
Really good. We're reviewing programs, policies, and practices, making sure that we are putting into place the philosophies and principles that I think the people of Lake County elected me to execute and to put into place right away. We have a lot of programs that we're starting. We've already begun the work on building a public dashboard in order to show crime trends, which has never been a priority for the office. We started our work of building a victims advisory panel, which I think is very important. I was meeting with some wonderful advocates today with the Zacharias Center, which is where people can receive counseling if they've been the survivor of sexual violence, and so that was a really strong meeting today. I've been meeting with lots of different groups, including the Opioid Initiative, and being involved in a lot of work to make sure we find a wellness center, which will hopefully take some of our lower cases, misdemeanors, and people suffering from mental health crises to a crisis center rather than to the jail. So that's,
that's great.
that's been filling up a lot of my time, as well as putting in some new personnel.
That all sounds very great, very good, very positive. Move steps forward for sure, especially that last one you mentioned. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Absolutely, I'm here.
No, hold on. There's something wrong.
Yeah, we want to make sure that people who are having mental health crises and drug withdrawals have a safe place, a place where they can sort of reset a little bit if they've been arrested by the police for low-level misdemeanors like trespassing and such, rather than taking them to the jail. And we don't want to use our jail as a mental health facility. We want to have a real mental health facility. So I've been really excited about that work.
Well, that's good. Sorry, my earphones just died. Hold on. Okay, very cool. So that leads us into the police reform bill that was just passed by the General Assembly. Why don't you tell us about that? Break it down for us, and why don't you give us a little history as to why it was put on the floor in the first place?
Yeah. So the bill, which is now House Bill 3653, had a different number when it was introduced. Earlier, but it was introduced, I think, on January 5th, and took I think it took about a week to go through the various steps between the House and the Senate, and different people getting their putting their changes in and putting their advice in. And so the House Bill 3653 is part of the pillars offered by the Black Caucus that try to improve education, try to improve housing, and try to improve some health systems. I think it's housing and education, housing, education, and criminal justice reform. And so this bill was really a collection of revisions that people have been talking about for years.
Okay, and what are those revisions?
Okay, so there's a lot of important revisions, and there's several that are, I think, misunderstood by people, so I'm happy to talk about that. The biggest one that I think is getting the most attention is ending cash bail, and I could probably talk about that for a couple hours. But ending cash bail and body cameras, requiring body cameras statewide, are probably the two items that have caught the most attention. There's also important work which connects first responders with mental health and substance abuse treatment. There is increased training for police officers with respect to de-escalation. There is a provision that requires police to develop a plan if they believe that children could be in the home when a search warrant is executed. There is the banning of chokeholds, which to some extent was already in the law, but that was tightened up a little bit. And so there's a certification and decertification process of police, which was worked on with Attorney General Kwame Raoul, and law enforcement had spent some time in the certification and decertification parts of the bill. And so there's a lot of provisions in there. This final version of the bill did not change qualified immunity and did not affect the collective bargaining rights or the collective bargaining mechanisms for law enforcement. So a lot of people, law enforcement early in the process said that they were against the bill, and that was particularly when the qualified immunity and collective bargaining issues were in the bill, and then those came out. Many people, to be fair, many people in law enforcement still have concerns and questions about different parts of the bill. And I'm meeting with law enforcement chiefs and officials to work through those. And the bill becomes effective in July. So there is some time to clean up some parts of the bill.
Okay, well, that all sounds extremely encouraging, except for the last part. I just found out, actually, from Clyde that I thought the qualified immunity part was still in there and passed. And he informed me that was not the case, and you just confirmed that.
Yes,
I got to tell you, I got to tell you, that's extremely disconcerting to me, because it seems to me that getting rid of qualified immunity is the whole gist of the issue, to hold police accountable for their actions instead of letting them get away with literally murder. Okay, that's unfortunate that didn't pass. Sorry, it is. And I know a lot of people who are going to be upset about that. But let's go back to the more positive sides of all this stuff, and let's talk the cash bail thing. You said you could talk for hours about it. Why don't you give us about 6 minutes worth?
I'm checking my clock. So I think that here's a couple of really important things. First of all, ending cash bail doesn't mean that it doesn't suddenly mean that judges aren't deciding whether people should be in or out. It just takes money out of the discussion.
Right.
So I'm going to blow your mind now for a second, David.
Do it.
The federal courts have not been using cash or money as the way to talk about release or detention, and those are the words I'm going to use. That is,
right.
You release somebody charged with a crime or you detain somebody charged with a crime. The federal government has not used money as the language of release since 1985.
Wow.
So there are states and systems in place where judges are already making this decision. And David, the reason you are going to love this part of the bill, the reason that you are going to love this is because it does two things. It evens the playing field with respect to money.
Right.
So it's not simply a question of who has access to what money.
Right.
That's really important. We should be keeping people in jail because they're dangerous, not because they're poor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
The other reason you're going to love the bill is because it forces transparency.
Go on.
Right now, our judges, and because they're required to under the law, I'm not blaming the individual judges in Lake County. The judges in all of Illinois and most of the country speak about bail and about risk in terms of money. If I tell you that they are keeping an alleged domestic batterer in jail based on $60,000, what does that even mean to you? $60,000 means they have to post $6,000. I haven't told you anything else about the person. I haven't told you whether their name is Ricketts. I haven't told you whether their name is Trump. I haven't told you whether they're the name of a billionaire. I haven't told you anything about it. I've only told you that somebody needs $6,000 to get out of jail tonight. Why are we talking about this in terms of money? And what's actually happening is this is a way for the judges to quickly move through cases and calibrate how they feel about a case with a number. So instead of doing a hearing about detention or non-detention based on the individual characteristics of a person, they're just saying, well, an armed robbery means you have to post $10,000, and an armed robbery where you had a loaded gun means you have to post $15,000, and an armed robbery where you shoot somebody means you need $250,000, where you need $25,000. I'm not suggesting that those judges don't care about the safety of the community. I know those people. They're good people. They do care about the safety of the community. But until this bill, we were talking about everything in terms of money instead of a transparent decision about detention or release. So that's what this bill does. It stops the coded and veiled language where we talk about everything through money as opposed to a straightforward, and I'm not suggesting that it's an easy decision. I'm not a judge who has to decide somebody's freedom or detention, but that's what's at stake anyway. So why have we grown up in a system where judges just say, well, I don't want this guy to get out, so I'm going to make him post $100,000. Well, lo and behold, we've had at least two murder defendants who were both later convicted, able to post that $100,000. And Kyle Rittenhouse was able to post his large bond in Wisconsin. And maybe everybody's okay with that. Maybe people think Rittenhouse was defending himself. That's not the point of the debate. The point of the debate is if the judge was saying, well, I don't think Rittenhouse can post, so I'm going to put a large bond on here. Instead, the judge just should have been speaking in plain language about what the judge thought. Should Rittenhouse be in or out? So I just think that the use of money has made the entire process less transparent and in a lot of ways less safe for the community because people can post bond and potentially reoffend. So this bill changes how we talk about bond. It changes how transparent we are. But I don't know why people on social media are saying that it means that people will be out more. Judges are going to make the same decision. They're just not going to be cloaked in this other language.
Well, I'm guessing they're saying that because they don't understand it. Is basically that's usually how it goes.
And that's okay.
Yeah, well,
that's okay. I'm here to help, and
that's why you're.
Should research. People should research this.
Yeah, no, I know of somebody who's in Lake County Jail and merely waiting for because of COVID. He still hasn't. He's been in there for over a year. He still hasn't had a trial yet because of COVID, which is weird. So so much for due process and a speedy trial. But also, he's in there because he couldn't afford the bail. That's it. I mean, because he's poor. If he was a rich kid, he'd be sitting at home waiting for his trial. And that really kind of chaps my ass because that's extremely not fair at all. You divide the judicial system, the effects of it up against rich and poor. Bad things are going to happen eventually. But okay, very cool. So that's cash bail. That's one good thing. What was the next thing?
Oh, body cameras statewide.
So before then, it was just up to the local communities. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So in 2015. The legislature passed a bill that essentially made it voluntary. But they said once you do it, and I see the elegance of this here. What they did was they said, well, once you do it, you have to treat the body cameras, the footage a certain way. You can't destroy it. You must hang on to it. You must preserve it for a certain period of time. You must have protocols to make sure that the footage is stored and not lost, etc. That was okay. It pushed for pilot programs, and I think the thinking in 2015 was that Waukegan, for example, will feel the political pressure to put in body cameras. Gurnee will feel the political pressure to do it, and so they'll do it on a individual municipality basis.
Mm-hmm.
If I had been the state's attorney in 2015, I would have been advocating for statewide body cameras. Similar to the bill that was now passed in 2021. So this was part of my campaign was to advocate for statewide body cameras, and I'm thrilled that provision has been put in. It phases in. It gives the municipalities time to ramp up money, and I've already been working with law enforcement on the discussion about this is really expensive, and it's not the purchasing of the cameras, but actually the paying of the personnel to maintain the video and to store the video. So it is very expensive. I'm going to be upfront about that, and it's a cost that I think is worth it when we consider the accountability and transparency that it creates for our officers. It protects officers too. It should minimize false claims against police officers, which are bad morally and also clog up the system. So with body cameras, you have transparency and accountability on both sides. We just have to figure out some ways to make sure that they are properly funded. So I think that program is really important.
Well, I think it's very important, and it's a very good thing that was included and passed. Body cameras are very important. I mean, I've had plenty of lawyers on my show that testify to the fact that they've watched cops sit on the stand in a courtroom and just lie their butts off because they have this gang-like loyalty to one another. And if they can get away with lying to save each other, they will. So this will keep everybody accountable to a greater extent. And it just clarifies the issue. Now you can see what happened instead of he said, she said. I mean, like when even like purposefully lying aside, whether you be the citizen or the cop, when energy is high like that, the situation is super intense, it becomes a traumatic type experience of which you can forget important details. No matter who you are, behind the gun or in front of the gun, it's a psychologically noted phenomena that there are people who have literally tried to commit suicide, failed, and don't remember trying to commit suicide because it was so awful and intense, their brain erases it. Does that make sense? So this
Absolutely.
is... Yeah, so go ahead.
I think you're right, and I think you're making a really good point. This is something that social science has borne out in the last few years, and there's some interesting cases out about how stress affects eyewitness identification.
Right.
And we used to allow lawyers to argue. Well, something was really stressful, and so therefore the person's identity was frozen in the witness's mind. Social science tells us that that's not true. That stress scatters our brain and scatters our pathways in a way, especially high stress like that. And so that's very true also for officers and for citizens and community members, and anybody could be trying to remember what happened, but the body camera usage just leaves a much better. Creates a much better environment. I think we do have to think a little bit about the costs and what the intent of the body cameras are. I think that the intent of the body cameras are to capture community. I should stop saying that. Community interactions with all people, and that's the point of the body cameras. And I think that we have to, as we try to think about costs, we have to think a little bit about whether or not it's to capture, other time. And I don't think we should be, and I understand that, who's going to make the decision of what body camera footage to keep and what not. And that's the whole point of the system, is not to allow those decisions to be made. But I want to acknowledge that we are taking, so much data in that we have to think about some synergies or some economies of scale in order to decrease the cost in municipalities. So I'm very aware of that. I think we can work hard on that.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, no, I'm sure, Illinois' the state government tends to suck at budgeting money, so maybe this won't work out very well. But hopefully you can get it in there, because it seems like it's a very positive and much needed thing. Was there pushback from the police against mandated body cam wearing, or are they all for it?
They generally, I don't want to speak to them, because there are so many, there's so much talk out there on social media that this is, a problem from law enforcement's perspective. And I can talk about some of those areas, but I think Abby's right. I don't think that the police were pushing back on this one.
Okay.
They did have some concern about the penalties for violating the body camera policy. Under the law right now, if you intentionally, and that's really critical, that's the kind of nuance that social media loses. If you intentionally violate the body camera policy, or if you intentionally turn off your body camera, then you've committed a felony. Right. So, but that's intentionally, right? Like, that's if you and I are doing a case and I turn it off and then I text you later, hey man, I'm really glad I turned off my body camera on purpose, right? Like if you accidentally do it, you're not going to be charged with a felony, because accidents happen. But as we saw from the Capitol attacks, people are certainly willing to text and say things into cameras about crimes that they're committing. So, if an officer is, engaged, and I'm not saying this is even a common thing. I mean, if an officer is engaged in any type of conspiracy or intent to turn off their body cameras, then they're in big trouble. But innocent mistakes or even distracted thinking, if you don't turn your body camera back on, there's not going to be a criminal penalty to that. And the reason why I keep saying turn it back on is because appropriately the body camera statute does allow you to turn it off when you are meeting with confidential informants, or if you're meeting with a member of the public who is asking, hey, don't video record me now, okay? So in those cases, an officer can or must turn off the body camera because the other member of the public is saying, I don't want to be recorded. So there are times, your listeners have to picture times where the officers are doing the right thing and turning off the camera, and then if suddenly something very quick happens, or if they have to start, chasing somebody or something like that, they're never going to be, charged with a crime because they honestly forgot to turn it back on. So, at some point you begin to get, into real specific details. But obviously innocent mistakes, or even, innocent mistakes are never going to be charged as a crime. But there has been some pushback about such a serious consequence if you intentionally violate the policy.
Well, proving intent is kind of difficult to do, but
it is, but it's not impossible, right? Like, we do it. I mean, it's amazing what people will say and text and do. And so
that's true.
If you can't prove it, then you've probably found a police officer that is doing some bad things anyway. So that's kind of the point of the intentional requirement. And so, that's a provision. There is some use of force requirements that have been changed that make it a little bit less likely that a police officer should be shooting at someone. I think that's something that I favor, but there's been concern about whether that would make police officers less safe. But to be honest with you, I've read the statute many times, and the use of force language always allows police officers to protect themselves and to protect members of the public. What it challenges is a standard from, I think it's 1984, in a case called Tennessee versus Garner, if you want to jot that down. And in Tennessee versus Garner, they expanded the right of police officers to shoot fleeing felons. And so there's some pullback from that in the statute. That's my understanding of the statute and the Tennessee versus Garner case. So the statute does not in any way threaten the public or threaten the police. It just talks a little bit about what we do with fleeing felons.
All right, interesting. All right, well, so I was thinking just a minute ago, like one way is to maybe help pay for the body cams is to stop militarizing the police. Instead of police spending, $1 million on a tank when their town has 2,000 people in it, say, they actually spend it on body cams. I mean, wasn't there something in the reform bill about militarizing?
Yes. So one of the parts of the bills does end the purchase of military equipment, and I'll just read it here. Tracked armored vehicles, weaponized aircraft, firearms of the 50 caliber or higher, grenade launchers, bayonets. So those items are banned from purchase, and the word drone does not appear anywhere in the bill. So there's no limitations on drones because they can, gather information. There was a murder case that I was reviewing very recently, and we were able to look at some drone footage of a public area that was very helpful to see the spaces. And I know that our crash teams, when they're trying to analyze traffic accidents, have to use drone footage. So there's no limitations on drones in terms of cameras, but there is limitations on the things I listed. And so I know that people want their police officers to be safe. I want my police officers to be safe, but tracked armored vehicles, weaponized aircraft, firearms of 50 caliber or higher, grenade launchers, and bayonets are barred. There's nothing here about riot shields. There's nothing here about tear gas or anything like that. And so those are the items that are.
What about why are bayonets even in there? When's the last time anybody used a bayonet?
I don't know, but I think that bayonets would be, as we look at some of the unrest that we've seen over the last year, I do think bayonets could be potentially a lot of accidents would happen with bayonets. So in terms, people running towards the police, and as you think about their shields and things. So I don't know if there was a push to buy bayonets or not. But bayonets are not allowed.
Oh, good. No knives on the tip of your rifles. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just everybody, real quick, it's about the bottom of the hour. You're listening to WRLR 98.3 FM, the voice of Lake County. I'm David Rich, the host of Reality Radio, having a great chat with the recently elected Lake County State's Attorney, Eric Reinhardt. Could you do me a real quick favor, because I keep getting different versions of it. Would you spell your last name for me, please?
Oh, of course. R-I-N-E-H-A-R-T.
Okay, that's what.
R-I-N-E-H-A-R-T.
Okay, so that's what I got mostly today, but I've heard Reinhardt, D-T, Reinhard, no T, just a D, that kind of thing. And I looked it up today, and so I'm like, oh, it's just R-I-N-E-H-A-R-T, so that's easy.
Well, I guess we didn't have enough signs out at the recent election.
Well, you must have done something right, because you won.
Yes, we had some signs, and we have lots of other ways to reach people, so...
That is true. So actually, somebody, I had first put the post up on Facebook last week saying, hey guys, big show next week. BLM founder Eric Reinhardt, Lake County DA. I put DA for some reason. And a friend of mine who works for some police department around here, she's not a cop, she's like a dispatcher or something, or an archivist, texted me politely and said he's the state's attorney, not district attorney. I'm like, oh, that's right. Actually, we had a lengthy conversation about that very thing because it's confusing to people because it's a county state's attorney, which doesn't make any sense. But so I quickly edited the post. But so thank you, Linda, for correcting me. I appreciate that. Anyway, so back to the bill. Okay, so no bayonets. What's next?
Well, let's see. There's some work with training standards are changing to increase de-escalation, requiring police officers to go through de-escalation. One that's very interesting to me is that the law enforcement misconduct database is being expanded and access to it is being expanded. So in the past, the database is a way for the different police chiefs to see whether or not an officer has been disciplined or sanctioned in other departments, and that's a database. And so that database, it's called the Officer Professional Conduct Database. It was expanded to include more qualifying offenses, before we would call predicate, offenses. There's a way to in other words, if a police officer engages in a broader span of misconduct, it's essentially easier to get in the database. Almost all of the Lake County officers are amazing officers who are protecting us on a daily and nightly basis, and of course are not in the database. But if you are going to be in the database, I think that we need to make sure that, for example, state's attorneys can now see inside the database, which was a change. It also you weren't in the database unless you weren't in the database unless you had committed a Class 2 felony or higher. Well, isn't it funny? But official misconduct and aggravated battery are felonies that are lower than Class 2s. So if a police officer committed official misconduct, which is a Class 4 felony, that's our lowest. Or if they committed a Class 3 aggravated battery, then they wouldn't be in the database. Well, the database is now expanded to include all felonies if they're committed by an officer. So just very, very common sense stuff like that has been really great. I think it's been really great for the bill. Yeah.
So did you hear that? And I merely read like a snippet of the article several weeks ago that I think it's in L.A. They're requiring their police to have a bachelor's degree, a 4-year degree. Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about that.
So don't quote me exactly. Don't quote me exactly. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. You can look it up if you want, obviously. Let's just pretend for a moment it's true. What do you think about that?
I think that they're going to have I think they might have a lot of great candidates who don't apply because of that requirement. So I think I'm looking for, in terms of I'm saying this now as a resident of Lake County, not as the state's attorney, right. In terms of when I say what I'm looking for, I think we want men and women who have outstanding ethics, men and women who have an outstanding dedication to protecting people, have an outstanding dedication to the rule of law. Which is, frankly, something that I think has been made even more important in light of what happened in the Capitol, and so I don't think that's necessary because I wouldn't want to limit my applicant pool in that way. I think we have plenty. Trust me, as somebody who's been working in the courts for 17 years. We have plenty of screening devices, to look at people and to see how they respond to different psychological testing, and with increased scrutiny and transparency with body cameras or increased databases or just a breakdown of the idea that officers can't get in trouble. As we begin to break down some of those barriers and have more accountability, then I think we'll find the officers, the very, very few officers that should not be police officers. I think we'll find them, and the great officers we will continue to have, and I don't think I would not be for that requirement because I don't want to limit my applicant pool in that way.
Well, okay, and I think
I'll
that.
also tell you though, it's not something I've studied, but that's my
Fair enough.
That's my first take at it.
Fair enough. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I guess that's the general notion in opposition to requiring a police officer to have a 4-year degree is that you're limiting it to, a certain amount of people that isn't enough to draw from in the first place as a pool of resource, and that you're limiting you're getting rid of some good people that would otherwise be good cops. But at the same time, I mean, like, I just, getting at least a 4-year degree changes how you think and changes how you view the world. And it tends to make you a better thinker, a critical thinker, depending on what sort of curriculum you involve yourself in. I mean, if you get a business degree, I guess that really doesn't do much for you besides give you a cubicle job. But you study things like political science, philosophy, which includes ethics and logic and critical thinking and spotting fallacies. I mean, that's my degree. Any of the sciences, mathematics, stuff like that, and the humanities too. Even English has a lot of critical thinking skills involved. When you start getting doing that for 4 years, spending 4 years of your life studying all these different things, it should make you a better thinker. And I don't see why you wouldn't want that with one of the most intense and potentially dangerous domestic jobs that there is being a police officer for the citizens and for the police officers, more for the citizens, to have that general set of critical thinking skills that you get from having a 4-year degree. Also, real quick, what do you think about, because I know there's been some people that have said, not very many, you don't hear this often, but some people think that local police departments should not be allowed to hire former military, even though that's probably some of their favorite people to hire, because they don't want somebody who's already a trained killer to become a cop. Go ahead. What do you say to that?
Well, I haven't looked at that. I mean, I'd be interested in I'm kind of a numbers guy. I mean, these officers that unfortunately have engaged in misconduct and frankly, are causing us to have this, this national conversation. I don't know how many of them are former military. So I'd like to see if the actuarial table bears that out. The men and women who have defended our country and served our country bravely, in my opinion, deserve consideration.
I didn't
of course,
say
to be police officers. So I'm not comfortable in any way with limiting our applicants. So many of the police officers that I know have honorable military backgrounds and have served our country and our community so bravely and nobly that I in no way would want to limit the applicants. I think we already have the tools to find the people that we should be employing. And I think that many people, get the 4-year degree, but frankly, they would not always have the critical thinking skills that you're talking about. I think there are so many people, and I think there's probably people in both of our lives who we would trust to be a police officer before we would trust some people with 4-year degrees. So I think that I don't think we should engage in those types of limitations. I'm open-minded about it if there's some statistics that potentially support it, but I think that and I did Google just while you were talking, but I was paying attention to you too. It looks like the proposal was it seems like the proposal was that you either have a bachelor's degree or be over 25.
Interesting. Oh, the one out in LA.
So that's kind of interesting, right? And that is interesting because some of our police officers are younger. And the idea there would be that younger people's brains are still developing. We've seen other science about that. So that's an interesting idea, which is kind of a minimum age requirement for police. But again, this is anecdotal, but are the national stories that we see, whether they're in Atlanta or Minnesota or the Rodney King riots, I mean, man, those guys were all like in their 30s and 40s and sergeants,
Well, LA cops are their own. Yeah, LA cops are their own breed. Those guys are nasty. Big city cops are their own breed.
I'm just saying I don't know. I'm just saying I don't like the idea that limits any of my I don't ever want to limit my applicants. I'm selecting state's attorneys right now, and I'm selecting some people that are a little bit, outside the box in terms of the traditional approach, and they might be a little bit younger than other people, but that's how we find leaders. That's how we find I believe in a total meritocracy when it comes to looking for applicants, whether it be for prosecutors' offices or for police, and I don't want any limitations on them because I think we have enough tools to figure out who we want.
Okay, I mean, and so my friend Paul, who actually helped you with your campaign, is yelling at me, saying basically the same thing you're saying. He's saying school does not make you smarter. I never said it makes you smarter, but it does by definition make you more educated, and it does give you certain skills that you might not otherwise accrue by studying certain things. Not every curriculum is going to give you those things. Again, business degrees are probably some of the most useless degrees out there because they don't teach you anything. But anyway, okay, fine. Let's get back because we don't have a lot of time left. Go ahead.
I'll make one point.
Go ahead.
What you're saying is interesting. I just don't think we should put that limitation on. But I do like this idea, and I think this is a great thing about the military. The military is one of the most diverse and effective organizations we have, and everything that I talk to in the military talks about the strong diversity and the strong commitment to to a meritocracy there, and how we have a very diverse officer corps based on our national population, and so people who've been in the military have gone out and seen the world. They've been outside of their hometowns. And look, I'm from a small town too, so I get this, but they've been outside of they've had their mind expanded, and certainly people who go to schools have their minds expanded, and they meet more diverse people. So I think there's value in what you're saying. I don't want an artificial limitation on this bachelor's degree idea or excluding people from the military, because so many great officers I know wouldn't necessarily qualify. So that's how I look at it.
No, that's fair. I get what you're saying. I'm trying to think. There's at least a couple of countries other than outside of America that have that same sort of requirement of a 4-year degree, that kind of thing. And one day we'll have to have you on the show and talk about the statistics in other countries concerning policing compared to ones in America, and how outrageously embarrassing. You've seen some?
Yes. I can imagine. I can imagine them.
Well, it's definitely doesn't. It doesn't.
Like to end that discussion.
Yeah, it doesn't make police in America look very good. But anyway, okay. So, is there anything else? Because I do want to talk about this qualified immunity being taken out thing. Is there anything else on the bill that you want to discuss?
I think those are the highlights. If I'm getting them all. Yeah.
Okay. So whatever I read like a week or so ago, whenever it first hit the stands that the bill had passed, I could have sworn it said qualified immunity was in there, and that's what made me most happy about it. And until I heard Clyde McLemore tell me about an hour ago that it got pulled out of there, I was really excited, and now I'm less excited. The changes you're talking about that passed in the bill are all very good and very positive. But as far as a lot of people are concerned, qualified immunity is the main problem concerning police brutality. Is because they're legally protected to get away with literally killing people who should not have been killed. That's what
qualified immunity. But qualified immunity isn't absolute immunity, right? I mean, qualified immunity just says that there has to be a clearly established statutory there has to be a clearly established statutory or constitutional right of which a reasonable person would have known. So look, here's the thing. I want to have this discussion with you. I want to have this discussion with law enforcement. I tend to think that this is really more of a cost sharing issue, and not to sound like an economist, and I don't have an econ background. But at the end of the day, when law enforcement came out against this bill, they talked about how individual officers were going to be under attack by these lawsuits. Okay, well, first of all, the bill doesn't change and cannot change respondeat superior, not to use that, but the idea that you're basically suing the police department. Okay, you're not suing, you might be suing the individual officer, but the police department is always going to pick up the individual officer's defense. And so what ending qualified immunity would do is require police departments to buy bigger insurance policies, which would spread the risk around or spread the cost around to the people in the individual municipality. That's probably okay. I'm saying that that's what's better. That's totally fine. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm just telling you that the ending of qualified immunity would require the purchase of additional insurance, and that has the benefit of making people whole if they are being attacked, and it has the benefit of giving police departments the incentive to make sure that they are not engaging in any patterns or practices that violate constitutional rights. So there are good things about changing qualified immunity or getting rid of qualified immunity, but I think maybe I disagree with you a little bit. I don't want to hear you out on this. I don't see it as an end-all be-all. I mean, I think qualified immunity is a thing that judges hide behind when they don't want to allow the case to go forward against the police officer. But if we don't have qualified immunity, they're just going to say, well, we find that it wasn't a knowing violation of a constitutional right. Like, it's the judges that have built the qualified immunity around the police officers. And so I think we're always going to have a problem until we have judges who are willing to hold police officers accountable.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's all very interesting and something to think about and process. I just know that, like, you hear all the time, with the Breonna Taylor thing. Like, nobody was held accountable except for because he shot into the other room or something like that, or something that had really nothing to do with the actual travesty of what happened. And the guy got out there. He's like, well, there's just, they didn't prove that they did anything wrong. I'm like, okay, that's, they didn't prove negligence, I guess. And proof of things like proving a negative and that kind of thing can be very difficult. And
sure, absolutely.
It's the whole thing seems completely in favor of the police, even when they do like really terrible things. Anyway, okay, so was there any pushback from outside of the police community, from the public, concerning the fact that qualified immunity was taken out?
No, I think that. So here's what I think happened. Law enforcement was concerned about qualified immunity and potentially the collective bargaining changes, and they also had concerns about cash bail, right? They also had concerns about the felony murder rule, which if we had a minute, I can tell you about. So they cast all. I mean, I saw their lobbyist talking points. The lobbyist talking points say things like, this defunds the police, okay? The lobbyist talking points say things like, this ends the felony murder rule. Like, I can send it to you, David. It says ends the felony murder rule. No version of the bill ever ended the felony murder rule.
What is the felony murder rule?
All right, the felony murder rule is that if all of us go out and say we're going to rob a bank, like in the movie Heat, okay? Yeah. And we're all armed, that we all go down for murder when somebody gets killed. Okay?
Okay.
So let's say, I don't know if everybody's seen the movie Heat, but if you haven't, you should. And two, you understand the felony murder rule, because all those guys who robbed that bank, even though I think a couple people died, all those people are going down for murder because they all agreed to commit a violent felony, and then somebody died. But the devil is in the details. What if only one person is armed? What if one person is armed and nobody knows it? What if you're not going out to rob a bank? What if you're going out to burglarize a car, to take iPods or take cell phones out of cars, and somebody is armed, is breaking into a car, an inherently dangerous felony? What if you're breaking into a car, three of you are breaking into a car, and the car owner shoots one of the three? Well, that's actually felony murder. You were engaged in a felony and somebody died, even though it was one of your fellow accomplices. So the felony murder rule is very complicated, and we could do a whole show on the felony murder rule. The felony murder rule is complicated, but my point is the bill was never banning the felony murder rule. I saw the first version of the bill. I've talked to the people who were pushing for the felony murder rule changes. Nobody has ever pushed to abolish the felony murder rule, but law enforcement lobbyists were happy to put out information sheets that said this ends the felony murder rule. It was never even close. It was never even close to defunding the police. And when people are just going to say this bill defunds the police, man, have guys like you and I got a lot of work to do to start getting people the facts, and that's a huge problem in our country. Is all right, let's figure out what the facts are, and then let's argue about it. And if people want to have arguments about qualified immunity, I think those are great arguments. I think I'm going to host some town halls on them. Like, let's duke it out about qualified immunity, but let's stop fighting about the conclusion about how this bill criminalizes being a police officer. This bill defunds the police. This bill doesn't support police officers. Let's get into the details. Let's debate the details and not the top line.
No, I agree 100%. And if you remember, let me know if you ever have those town hall meetings. I'd love to cover it. Bring my press pass and cover it for the show, and that kind of thing. That'd be cool. And okay, well, here's I gotta get going. I gotta get going here in a minute or two. But
sure.
Here's my biggest concern, not just personally and philosophically about qualified immunity, but here's like my sociological concern with it not being even addressed in any way, is that a lot of people are going to what's going to happen is some cop's going to do something stupid again, and they're going to shoot a black person, and it's going to be not exactly the right thing to do. The black person's going to die, and that cop's not going to be held accountable enough in the public's eye, and there's going to be more riots in the street. There's going to be more broken windows and broken doors. There's going to be bloodshed, and a lot of people are going to think that if that happens in Illinois, that blood is going to be on the hands of the people who took qualified immunity out of that bill. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but don't you think? Yeah, but isn't the thing that's the thing that's should be concerning to, not concerning, but the question of accountability. I mean, now I can't remember the officer's name. What's the officer's name in Minnesota?
Darren Pacific. I don't know. I call it Derek D or Derek POS.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember. That guy's being charged with murder.
Right.
And I think that a lot of the criminal laws are obviously going to keep police in, the police concerned about, when they start firing their guns. And look, David, I'm not telling you. I think the qualified immunity discussion is a great one. I want to study it some more. Okay. I'm not trying to be a politician who's dodging on this. Frankly, I bet in the next 3 years you're going to make me say what my position is on qualified immunity anyway. So I'm not doing that. Okay? But it is something I want to study. I want to see how much it's being used in state courts as opposed to federal courts. Right. I want to study its creation by the judges.
Right.
But hear me out. For the most part, I think it's just going to be a cost spreading issue. I think it's just going to be taxpayers are having to pay for police officers for making mistakes, which is going to align the incentives so that we all pay more attention to the police officers in our department. But I want to study that a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day that the criminal law, when we start talking about people who are shooting, I think that the criminal law is there to address those cases. And frankly, I think we have to do a better job of talking about what those Minneapolis officers' prior disciplinary record was. And I haven't heard an expose on that. I don't know how often those guys had gotten in trouble in the past. And this bill helps us. But one of the things it does, I didn't mention, it makes sure that we don't destroy those discipline records. Those records have to be preserved essentially forever. It makes it easier to lodge a complaint against a police officer. And those things are really good because we need to make sure that people don't feel intimidated in giving complaints against police officers. So I think there's a lot more work to be done. I think I want to commend Clyde McLemore and the work that Lake County BLM has done because, frankly, we haven't seen the problems in Waukegan that we've seen in other areas, even though we had our own officer-involved shooting.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
you have to, Clyde and I don't agree on everything, but we do agree on a lot of things, and I have to commend him and his leadership team for making sure that the protests were peaceful here in Waukegan, and they were. I went to 7 or 8 marches, and they were peaceful. People were passionate,
Yep.
And people were upset, but they were peaceful. And I have to commend the BLM leaders in Lake County.
Absolutely, 100%. Well said. Thank you. All right, Eric Reinhardt, recently elected Lake County State's Attorney. Again, we need to work on that. It's hard to say. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, congratulations again on your win. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Always a pleasure talking to you. I'm sure you and I will talk a lot more over the next 3.5, 4 years during your term here. And I wish you all the best. And I will be in touch, sir.
Thank you very much. I look forward to being on the show again, talking about all these issues.
All right, Eric. You take care.
All right, thanks, Eric.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Reality Radio. Paul, I understand all that. Okay. Just, that still. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, I've got a couple of very interesting folks coming on. One gentleman will be on from 5 to 6. He is a 25-year-long vegan and is very well educated on the health and environmental benefits of said diet. Said 6 to 6:45 p.m. I have my buddy Cesare coming on, who's going to talk about animal rights and democracy. So that'll be a very interesting show. Tune in. Till next time, keep it real.
RLR 98.3 FM.
See ya.
I can take care of myself.